Welcome to this explainer. You know, true financial peace isn't actually about becoming a millionaire. It's really not. We're not talking about yachts or sprawling mansions here. Instead, it's about a profound psychological shift. It turns out, reaching a very specific, totally attainable milestone can completely rewire how your brain handles stress and opportunity. So we're going to tease apart this reality, that escaping the paycheck-to-paycheck panic requires changing your mind just as much as your math. Let's get right into it.
To really grasp this, we need to picture a scenario that, well, it might feel a little uncomfortably familiar. Have you ever been there? You're lying awake at 3 a.m., just staring at the ceiling, and your mind is racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're totally gripped by that midnight money panic. You start thinking, what if my car breaks down on the way to work tomorrow? What if my laptop just suddenly dies and I literally can't do my job? Or, oh man, what if the dog needs emergency vet surgery? It's absolutely exhausting, right? And it keeps millions of us playing defense with our lives every single day.
But there's an unexpected hero in our explainer today, and that hero is $10,000. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Most people think financial milestones are just these arbitrary numbers made up by gurus to make the rest of us feel inadequate. But as our sources reveal, there's actual hard psychology and mathematics backing this up. This specific, scientifically backed number will fundamentally transform how you navigate life. Honestly, it's the very first real game changer on the path to financial freedom.
Okay, let's dive into this. Living paycheck to paycheck traps you in what's known as a scarcity mindset, and it is an exhausting reality. It means standing right there in the grocery aisle, mentally calculating if you can swing the name brand cereal or if you have to settle for the generic brand that, let's be honest, tastes kind of like cardboard. It means coming up with creative excuses to dodge a $25 dinner with friends because, well, it would completely ruin your budget for the week. Now, compare that to an abundance mindset. That's where you're making proactive choices about your future without that daily grinding panic hanging over your head.
And here's the wild part. This shift isn't just in your head, it's actually in your biology. We are talking about a literal brain chemistry alteration. Neuroscientists have actually found that when you hit a 5-figure bank balance, your levels of cortisol, which, is your body's primary stress hormone, they physically drop. Hitting this $10,000 milestone fundamentally changes your body's physical response to daily challenges. You aren't just financially healthier, you are, quite literally, biologically less stressed.
Just think about the dreaded check engine light popping up on your car dashboard. If you have $0 saved, that little glowing light might as well be a ticking countdown timer to total financial disaster. You're instantly panicking about having to put it on a high-interest credit card, or worse, begging family for help. But when you have 10 grand saved, that exact same flashing light becomes nothing more than a mild inconvenience. I mean, sure, you're annoyed, but that blinding, heart-pounding panic, it's entirely gone.
And this brings us to a concept that completely reframes standard financial advice. It's called the emergency fund effect. See, an emergency fund isn't actually about the emergencies. It's really about the profound peace of mind you get just from knowing the money is sitting right there, available if you need it. In fact, most people who hit this milestone never even spend it on disasters. Instead, having this safety net gives them the mental bandwidth to use that money for opportunities, like, going after a new certification, finally starting that side business, or even moving to a better city.
Plus, this safety net fixes a massive, hidden daily drain on your energy, decision fatigue. Now, I know it sounds like a corporate buzzword, but trust me, it is incredibly real. It's that psychological exhaustion that comes from calculating thousands of micro-financial choices every single day. Things like, do I buy premium gas or regular? Or can I grab a coffee on the way to work, or should I really just wait until I get home? Debating all these tiny details burns through a massive amount of crucial mental energy. No wonder you feel absolutely exhausted by dinner time.
But check this out. 90% of those daily, survival-based financial decisions simply vanish when you have a safety net. Just imagine the immense mental freedom that provides. The source material actually shared a deeply moving anecdote about a person who, after finally hitting their $10,000 savings goal, almost started crying right there in the grocery store. And it wasn't because they bought expensive caviar or anything. It was because it suddenly hit them. They could finally just buy what they wanted to eat rather than solely, exhaustingly calculating what they could afford to eat.
Now, beyond that profound emotional relief, the mathematical realities of this safety net are just undeniable. Hitting $10,000 effectively makes you immune to the most common, life-derailing disasters. Think about it. It easily covers most car repairs, which typically range anywhere from $500 to $3,000. It handles the vast majority of unexpected, urgent medical visits. And, perhaps most importantly, it buys you 3 to 6 months of breathing room if you suddenly lose your job.
That means you can selectively hunt for a great new role instead of desperately taking the very first offer that comes your way.
And this reality, it completely shatters our standard assumptions about wealth. You can absolutely have a broke six-figure earner making 100 grand plus, driving expensive cars, but sitting on $0 saved. Then, contrast that with the wealthy everyday earner, maybe making $40,000 a year, but equipped with a strong mindset and substantial savings. This perfectly demonstrates a core truth. The most important wealth-building skill isn't actually earning money, it's keeping money. In this scenario, the lower-income earner is mathematically and psychologically way closer to actual financial independence.
So, when you master keeping that money, you unlock what we can call the ripple effects of financial peace. Having money in the bank improves the fundamental dynamics of your entire life. Studies show it literally leads to significantly better sleep quality, effectively curing financially induced insomnia. It improves your relationships, simply because there's far less family conflict over paying the bills. And it gives you vastly higher confidence when you walk into job interviews or salary negotiations. All of this creates a positive feedback loop that seriously accelerates your career growth.
This newfound confidence also completely flips your actual perception of money once you cross that threshold. When you have zero savings, every single dollar feels incredibly precious and finite. Dropping $50 on a networking event feels like a massive, terrifying risk. But once you've hit $10,000, individual dollars feel a little less precious. That exact same $50 event transforms into a cheap, obvious investment. An investment that could easily introduce you to someone who offers you a $5,000 raise. The safety net makes you willing to actually invest in opportunities.
So the crucial point really comes down to this. The hardest part isn't saving the money itself, it's developing the identity of someone who saves money. This right here is the ultimate solution. Achieving this milestone isn't about going on some temporary, highly aggressive financial diet where you just starve yourself of all fun for 3 months only to bounce right back to your old bad habits. No, it requires a complete identity shift where you view yourself as a fundamentally different type of person.
To build that identity, you really have to understand the progression. And I want to reassure you right now, the initial phase, it's the hardest. Saving that very first $1,000 is brutal. It requires massive lifestyle changes and just sheer willpower. But then, the next few thousand become noticeably easier because those habits are developing. And by the time you cross the $5,000 or $6,000 mark, the momentum naturally builds. At that point, the whole process begins to feel almost completely automatic. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, look, I don't have any extra money to save. Well, consider this number, $3,000. Our source data reveals a pretty fascinating reality check. The average American spends over $3,000 annually just on coffee, dining out, and random convenience purchases. And that doesn't even factor in major expenses. Now, the point here isn't to say you can never ever enjoy a coffee again. Rather, it proves that there is usually unseen flexibility hidden right there inside your current budget.
So, what's the actual actionable strategy here? Start ridiculously small. Literally, redirecting just 1/3 of that convenience spending will save you $10,000 in under 3 years. Consistency with just $25 or $50 a month is vastly more important than the initial size of your contribution. You really don't need a massive salary to start this journey. You just need a little bit of intentionality and awareness. Which brings us to our final provocative question for you to chew on. Are you ready to stop surviving and start becoming the type of person who builds wealth? Escaping that paycheck-to-paycheck panic is entirely within your grasp. Having that $10,000 sitting in your bank account? Yeah, it'll be amazing. But the person you become, the deep resilience you build, and the unshakable confidence you gain while saving that money, that is infinitely more valuable than the cash itself. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks a brand new approach to how you view your financial future.